Hey, what's up guys? So just before this video starts, I just do want to say that my game Bodhi and Friends is out now on both Steam and itch.io, so if you want to, be sure to go buy it and try it out for yourselves, and you know, your support would mean a lot. And yeah, now let's get right into the tutorial. Hey, what's up guys, Omogonix here and welcome back to a brand new Unity tutorial here on the channel. So in today's video I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a simple letter pickup system in Unity using C#. So what I'm going to be doing first off is I'm going to be going game object, 3D object, and then cube. Since for this tutorial I'm going to be using a cube as my letter object. Now if you guys want to use another object as your letter, like for example if you want to use a plane or something like that, then that's totally fine. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to be using a cube. So now what I'm doing is I'm just like positioning my cube where I want it to be. I've got this table set up here that I'm going to be using. And also, so then it doesn't get lost in your hierarchy either, make sure you rename your object to letter or something like that, whatever you want to, so then you at least know where it is. And you might even want to and you don't have to do this, but if you want to do this so then your hierarchy looks a bit neater, what you might want to do is you might want to right click your letter object and then go create empty parent, so then you can actually have all your letters under a parent object, so then it's easier to find them. So I'm just going to call this parent object letters. Now again, you don't have to do this, but if you want to, you can. It just helps your hierarchy to look a bit neater, so yeah. Now what I'm going to be doing is, so since I've got my cube all set up, I'm going to be adding my letter texture to the cube, so then it looks more like a letter. Now I will be scaling this cube as well, so don't worry about that. I'm not just going to be leaving this cube the way it is, but first off, let's just take a quick look at this letter texture that I've made. So as you can see here, I've got this letter texture. Now I made this in MS Paint. It's just meant to be like a parody, sort of like horror letter that you would find in like a horror game or something like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this over to the cube. I'm going to just drag and drop it, and then boom, as you can see, my cube now has the letter texture. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scale my cube so then it looks more like a letter. Just going to flatten it out, and then I'm going to make it look more like the shape of an A4 bit of paper. So, almost. Yeah, I'd say that looks good enough. So there is my letter. I'm just going to do some final positioning just to make sure that it's all good, and then boom, my letter is now in position. So now that my letter is all ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the game view, since now we're going to be doing some UI related stuff, and I'm going to go game object, UI, and then image. And now as you can see, I've got an image in the scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my letter here, and then I'm going to go Control D to duplicate it. And then what we're going to do is with this duplicated letter texture of ours, we're going to make sure that it's selected, and then in the right here, you'll want to go texture type, and then you'll want to select sprite, 2D and UI, and then you'll want to click apply, so then we can actually use this version of our letter texture for the UI image here. So now what you want to do is you want to click on your image, and then you want to drag your letter over to this empty source image variable of the image component. And then boom, as you can see, now we have our letter on the UI. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to scale this how I want to. So here we go. Alrighty, so that there is my letter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to letter UI. And then if you want to as well, you can actually do what we did with the letter in our scene. The actual letter object in our scene, you can actually right click this letter UI, create an empty parent if you want to, and then just just go UI letters, so then you don't lose track of where these are. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable this letter, and then we're going to add another UI component. We're going to go UI, and then you'll want to add a bit of text. So it can be Text Mesh Pro, or you can go legacy text. It doesn't really matter. You can use either one. I usually like to use the legacy text, so that's what I'm gonna use. But you guys can use Text Mesh Pro if that's what you're used to using. As I'm editing this video, I just want to say that you don't have to use text if you don't want to. If you just want to have a crosshair or something like that appears when looking at the letter, that's totally fine as well. Just anything that tells the player they can interact with something. So now that I've got my text in the scene, I'm just gonna position it in the middle of the screen. And then as you can see here, when you've got your like text component attached to the text object, right, you can like change the alignment and stuff like that. I'm just gonna like change the width and height of it so then I can actually scale this text a bit. So what this text is gonna be is it's gonna be our interaction text. So let's say for example you're looking at a letter and then the letter E pops up. That means that you can interact with the letter by pressing E. So that's what this is meant to be. It's basically just meant to be a bit of text that pops up when we are looking at the letter so then we can interact with it. So I'm just going to make sure that my interaction text is red and bold so then it is actually something which can be seen very easily. So I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. And there we go. I think that's pretty okay. I think that's alright. And then I'm going to rename this to interaction text. So yeah, again, what this text object is, what this text is going to be used for is it's going to be used as our interaction text. So then, when we're looking at the letter, we can actually see how we need to interact with it by pressing E. It just basically lets us know that we can interact with the letter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable this, and then boom. So now that we've got our UI stuff done, and then we've got our letter implemented into the scene as well, what I'm going to do now is, I guess we're good enough to do the scripting. So first up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new script called letter. So what you want to do is you want to right click in your project folder, and then you want to go create and then C# script. Now I'm going to create a new script called letter. And then there's also going to be another script as well called interaction. Oh, wait a second. Once you create a new script, then it's going to do some reloading script assembly stuff. But anyways, so now what I'm going to do is I've got another script as well called interaction. So they're just our two scripts that we've got here, and we'll be working on these both today. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open up the letter script. So open up your letter script first. Alrighty, so once you're in the script, what you want to do is you want to just get rid of the starter stuff here, and then you want to go public game object, since we'll be using a game object variable. And what public means is that indicates that we can actually access this variable publicly with other scripts or just in the scene itself. And then we're going to call this game object variable letter UI. So what this variable is going to be for is it's going to be for our UI version of the letter, which we just created before. And then we're also going to have a bool here called toggle. So what this bool is going to be used for is it's going to be used for when we're interacting with the letter. So if we press E to interact with the letter and it opens the letter, that will mean that toggle equals true, because whenever we're going to interact with the letter, it will basically toggle will equal to opposite of whatever it's going to equal to whenever we press E. So if toggle equals to false, then it closes the letter. If it equals to true, then it will open the letter. So whenever we're pressing E, it will basically just be, you know, constantly switching between opening and closing the letter, and yeah, so that's what toggle is going to be used for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go void, and then this needs to be a public void, since our interaction script is going to be interacting with this script. So we're going to call this public void, and then it's going to be called open close letter, since that's what this void will be doing. So what will happen is toggle will equal to the opposite of what toggle equals to. For anyone who doesn't know, exclamation marks usually either mean not, or they just basically just mean not. So toggle will equal to, you know, what toggle doesn't equal to, so the opposite of it. That's what the exclamation mark means. And then if toggle equals to false, then the letter UI will be set false. So letter UI.setActive false, that means it will turn off. And then if toggle equal to true, then the letter UI will be set true. And there we go. So that there is pretty much the letter script, you know, pretty simple. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the scene. And then now we're going to be doing work on the interaction script. So this one's going to be a little bit longer and a little bit more confusing for newer people. But bear with me here. So what you want to do is you want to open up your interaction script. And then you want to start off by getting rid of the starter stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go public float, and then we're going to call this interaction distance. Oh, and by the way, I just want to mention as well, the method of interaction we'll be using for this tutorial is raycasting. So if you guys in your game already have like a script already made up for your player so then it can interact with things via raycasting, you don't have to copy this whole script of mine that I'm doing today. You can just implement certain parts of this script that I'm doing into your script so then it can work with the current script you already have, you know, like Frankenstein it together. So yeah, you don't have to replace your current whole interaction script with this if you don't want to. You can just include certain parts from this tutorial in your script if you want to. So yeah, but you can follow along with this tutorial so then you do have an idea of, you know, what you're doing. So yeah, so first up you want to have like a public float called interaction distance. This will determine, you know, how far away we can be from the letters to interact with them. So public float interaction distance. And then we're going to go public game object, since we'll be using a game object variable, and this will be for our interaction text. So whenever we're looking at the letter, that interaction text that we made before, where it just shows up with an E, will show up, and then that will allow us to, you know whether or not we can interact with something. And then another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be creating a public layer mask variable. Now layer masks, what these are used for is, so then let's say for example, right, there's certain layers that we don't want our raycast to like interact with or whatever, or we don't want our raycast to collide with, then that's what this will be used for. So yeah. In fact, I might call this variable interaction layers just so it's sort of a bit easier to understand. So yeah, you guys will get more context on this a bit later on. But yeah, so they're like the three variables we're going to need for this script, and that's pretty much it. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be going void fixed update. And the reason as to why we're using fixed update is since this is used for physics related stuff, like with raycasts and whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a new raycast hit variable called raycast hit. Well, the variable itself will be called hit, but it'll be a raycast hit variable, sorry. So yeah, we're going to be going raycast hit, and then what that's going to be used for is this right here. So we're going to go if physics.raycast and then transform.position. So what this means here is that the raycast will be shooting from the position of wherever this script is going to be attached to. So this script's going to be attached to our player's camera, so that means that this raycast will shoot from the player camera's position. And then I'm going to be going transform.forward. Now what this does is it basically means that it's going to be, the raycast will be shooting forward from our player camera's position. And then we're going to go out hit. So basically this, you guys will see what this hit variable is used for. Basically what it's used for is it's used to get information from the object that we do hit. So whenever we hit like a letter, for example, that hit variable will basically collect information from that object, and if that object has certain bits of information, then that will be considered our letter and we can interact with it. And yeah, you guys will see some context more later on. So then after that, what you want to do is you want to go interaction distance. So then the raycast, you know, it's at the like sort of length of our interaction distance, whatever that's set to. And then last but not least, you then want to go interaction layers. So then our raycast only interacts with the layers that we want it to interact with. And then we're going to do the curly brackets again. And then what you want to do is you then want to go if hit dot collider dot game object dot get component letter. So basically what we're doing here is if the object that our raycast hits has the letter component on it, then that means that the interaction text will be set active to true. And then if our player presses E, so if we go input.getKey down keycode.E, then what you'll do is you go hit.collider.gameObject.getComponent, and then you'll just do this again. And then what you want to do here, after you get the component, the letter component, you want to go dot, and then remember how we did this public void here called open close letter? Well, what you want to do is you want to write dot open close letter. So then when we're looking at our letter in the scene, right, what happens is the hit variable, it will collect information from that letter, and you know, if it's got the letter component, then it will access that letter script, and then it will make the this void here play, the open close letter. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. And boom. So there's not really much else to do there other than, oh wait, yeah, there is actually one more thing. So if your object is no longer, if you're no longer looking at the letter object or anything that can be interacted with, I suggest what you do is on this line here, you write else, and then you just paste and then you just write interaction text dot set active false. So if the game object that you're looking at, that your player's camera is looking at, doesn't have the letter component, then the interaction text will be set to false. And then if your player's raycast is no longer hitting anything as well, what you might want to do is you want to copy this bit of code, the else line that we just wrote before, and then you'll want to put it on this line of the script as well. So yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Now, before I do get into, you know, applying the script and everything into the scene, I just do want to say that if you guys are a bit confused, I will be writing out comments throughout the script, so then you guys do have a better understanding of how to do this. And so yeah, so once you're done with your scripts, what you want to do is you want to press Ctrl S to save each one of them if you haven't already. And then now you can go back into the Unity editor. Now when you're in the Unity editor, what you want to do is, first up, we're going to be applying our letter script. So you want to select your letter, and then you want to apply your letter script. So now all you need to do is you need to fill in the letter UI game object variable with your letter UI, your UI letter I mean, so you know, this right here. So what you want to do is you just want to select your letter, and then when you have your script dragged onto it, you then want to drag on your letter UI game object into here, and then boom. So now what you want to do is you want to select your player's camera, and then you want to add your interaction script to it, and then you want to fill in the variables here. So we have the interaction distance, which I'm going to set to 2, and then the interaction text, which of course is going to be filled in with the interaction text from our UI. And then with the interaction layers, usually what I suggest you do is you just select everything. And then if there's any like layer you don't want your player to interact with, like let's say for example, you don't want your raycast to interact with your player itself, you can deselect that if you want. But yeah, other than that, you don't really need to do anything else. I do recommend that you do have most of your layers selected though, so then of course your raycast can't go going through walls and stuff like that, because obviously you don't want your player to be able to interact with things through walls and stuff, so yeah. But now anyways, now that that's all done, let's test this out and see how it works for us in our scene. So hopefully everything works to plan, and well, as you can see right now, I can look down at the letter, and as I'm looking at it and looking away from it, the interaction text is both appearing and disappearing, so that's good. And then when I press E, boom, it actually interacts with it. And yeah. Now, obviously, there are a bit of things that need to be adjusted here. For example, as you can see, we can move as we hold the letter, and obviously we don't really want that. So I will be, fixing that up in a second. And then another thing as well is when we select the letter, the interaction text is above it, so we will be fixing up that. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to be moving the interaction text on the hierarchy above the UI letter, so then when we open up our letter, then the interaction text isn't above our letter UI and it's not, overlaying it. Alright, so as well as that issue we had with the interaction text showing up above the letter, the other problem that we experienced was the player still moving as we held the letter. So obviously there's a very easy fix to this, so let's just open up the letter script. And then what you want to do is you want to go public, and then you want to enter the name of your player script. So in my case it's sc_fps controller. So yeah, you just want to enter the name of your player's script, and then you just want to call the variable something like player. And then if toggle equals to false, our player will equal to true, so our player's script will be enabled. And then if the letter is opened, so if toggle equals to true and we're opening the letter, then our player will equal to false, so the player's script will no longer be enabled. And then boom. So now let's just go back into the scene. Alright, there we go. So now what you want to do is you just want to select your letter, and then you just want to fill in the player script here with your player. And then let's test this out again and see how it all goes. Alrighty. And boom. So as you can see, when I interact with the letter, I can no longer move. I can only move again when pressing E to no longer interact with the letter. And yeah. Oh, and also another thing you'll notice as well is that when picking up the letter is still there on the table. So there is obviously an easy fix to this as well, which we will quickly do before the end of this tutorial. So let's just go back into the letter script. And now what we're going to do is, will we need to add a new variable, or could I just do... No, we will add a new variable just in case. I just like to add variables because it's just, easier to get it all sorted. So what you want to do is you want to go public renderer, and then we'll call this letter mesh. So the reason as to why I was contemplating not adding a new variable for this is because we could just do a thing where it's like this.getGame this.gameObject.getComponent, and then we can get the renderer component from the object that this script is attached to. But just in case, I will just add like a variable just in case anyway. So yeah, so you just want to add a public renderer variable called letterMesh, and then when toggle equals to false, the letterMesh will equal to true, so the letterMesh will be enabled because the letter has been put down. And then when the letter's being picked up, so when toggle equals to true, the letter mesh will equal to false, so it will be disabled. And then yeah, alrighty, so that's that. Now you just want to, quickly fill in this variable here. And then boom, that should be all good to go, and then we can test this quickly again. And there we go. So now when we pick up the letter, it is no longer on the table. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hey guys, so just as I was uploading the video, I decided to test out the letter pickup system again. And something that I noticed is that whenever I was trying to pick up the letters, there would be some times where I couldn't pick them up. Like, basically I'd have to press the E key like twice or even 3 times to pick it up. And the reason for that was because of the fixed update void. Now, the fixed update void, whilst this is really good to use for raycasting, when it comes to using it for, interaction, using the void update is totally fine. I just used it before, it's totally fine to use. I've used it with raycasting before. But usually I find the fixed update works better, but when it comes to interaction, I guess you might want to use the update void instead. And yeah, it's just a bit better to use, and yeah. So if you're someone who faces any interaction issues using the fixed update void for the interaction, then just change it to void update. And I'll show you guys an example of how it looks. So, you know, it just pretty much functions the exact same as you would expect. So yeah. Only this time now I don't need to press the E key like twice sometimes in order to pick it up. Because yeah, it's something that I didn't notice until today. And yeah, I just wanted to quickly fix it up before uploading this tutorial. Alrighty, so now that we've got the basic letter pickup system done, I now want to show you guys how you can suit this for multiple letters. Since this is a letter pickup system we've made after all, and it's meant to be suited for, you know, multiple letters and not just one. So yeah, let me show you guys how to get this working for multiple letters and not just one. So what you want to do is, let's just say for example, you have a new letter, so I'm just going to copy and paste this, put it here. And then what I've got here is I've got like a texture. It's just like a Bodhi and Friends screenshot that I took a while ago. And you can tell it's a while ago as well, since the friends don't even have normal maps yet. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to this letter here. So this is going to be a different letter that we'll be able to pick up. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my game view, since I'm going to be doing some UI stuff. And then with this letter UI here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this. So I'm just going to duplicate it. And then what I'm going to do is with this Bodhi and Friends image of mine that I'm using as an example for the second letter, I'm going to then duplicate this. And then I'm going to then select it. And then change the texture type to sprite, 2D, and UI. So pretty much we're just repeating the steps of making the first letter again. And then what you want to do is you then want to go to your second letter UI thing you've made, and then you want to add that sprite into the source image here, and then boom, now you have your second letter. So now you just want to disable that, and then on your letter object in the scene, the second letter object in the scene, what you then want to do is you then want to change the letter UI variable to then be the same one that we just did before. So that second one we did before, you then want to fill that letter in, since that will be the letter we're picking up, not the first one. And then you should be all good to go. So now let's test that all out. Alright, so now when we, as you guys can see, when we're looking at this second letter, we can interact with it, and then boom. As you can see, the second letter is picked up. And then when we go to the first one again, it picks up that letter. And so yeah, that there guys is how you create a basic letter pickup system in Unity using raycasting and C#. So if you guys did enjoy this tutorial, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And also consider buying my game Bodhi and Friends, which just came out recently as well. That would definitely mean a lot to me. I've got a few more game projects in the works at the moment, and you know, I can't wait to show off more and show off what I've learnt from working on Bodhi and Friends. And yeah, anyways, see you all soon, and bye bye.